No way. Elliotte Friedman, man. How could you go out there and say that? Earlier this week, on July 1st, I believe this was on the Jeff Merrick show? Something like that? There's a clip of it going around on social media, but Elliotte Friedman, during this year's free agency period, went out there and dropped such an interesting tidbit of information that I wanted to go out there and make a video about it just for the Toronto Maple Leafs fans. Because when it comes to what Friedman spoke about in regards to the Mitch Marner situation in Toronto, he had himself a quote from the Sportsnet video broadcast that goes over how the Mitch Marner situation might actually be changing the market. Now, let me explain before we dive into Friedman's comments. Mitch Marner is 27 years old. His contract of $10.9 million a year expires at the end of next season, and for the most part, there have been so many conversations about the Maple Leafs potentially trading him and sending him away to another team, not because he's a bad player, but because he's not worth the money and he's going to be super expensive on his next dollar amount, and he doesn't show up in the playoffs, and that was the last straw because he wasn't good and everything. It's been the old song and dance for Mitch Marner the past few years. But this offseason, it was entirely different. Because now we had just gone through the entire last straw situation, quote-unquote. How now, after Austin Matthews and William Nylander's extensions kick in, and after Mitch Marner's contract negotiations can open up, it's an entirely new ballgame if the team is not able to force themselves to the second round and beyond and consistently be that kind of a threat. If they can actually start consistently scoring goals, then okay, we can roll with this core. But once more, as we have seen time and time again, the Toronto Maple Leafs have disappointed in their 2024 first-round series against the Boston Bruins. They blew the lead, they blew the Game 7, and they lost. A lot of the insiders have been saying that this core is going to blow up, that Marner is going to get traded, it's inevitable, it's this, it's that, and then things kind of flipped upside down when free agency began. Because after around the draft-ish, we started to see a lot of insiders saying, oh, actually, wait, maybe Marner isn't going to get traded. Maybe Marner will instead just get a contract extension and the Maple Leafs will go further into that path, rather than exploring a legitimate trade for this player. And you can tell that the reactions, they were always going to be mixed. A lot of Leafs fans saying this is good, a lot of Leafs fans saying this is bad, we should keep Marner because he's a 90-point caliber player, we should trade Marner because he doesn't have that X factor, and he said that players in Toronto are kind of looked at like gods, and there's a lot that goes on with the Toronto Maple Leafs and Marner in particular. But Elliotte Friedman, on this week's edition of Sportsnet TV, went out there and said this in regards to the situation. It's funny because one player told me that there are some players who have watched from the outside what's gone on with this whole Marner thing over the last month or two, and they're like, I want no part of that. I don't want anything to do with that. It takes a special person to play in Toronto, but I think there were some players like, nope, that's not going to be me. And this quote is so funny because it goes out there and pretty much says that the Mitch Marner situation is starting to scare players away. And I have a few concerns about that. Like, is it, players on the free agent market look at the Maple Leafs and the media, and they don't like it? They don't like the way that Marner is being scrutinized and talk about being traded and all that stuff. They don't want to see that kind of manifest itself for their own careers? Or is it more so like, hey, Mitch Marner, the situation, him as a hockey player on the ice, that part is what they don't want to be a part of, because Mitch Marner is the biggest example of a player who does not live up to expectations and gets a beating on social media because of it. That would probably be the most likely conclusion, right? That players see Marner's scrutiny online and they recognize, oh yeah, it's really hard in Toronto. I don't want to play there. Honestly, while I understand that point of view, I also do think it's kind of misguided, because part of what makes Marner so hateable on social media is because of the contract that he has, and it's because of the very direct and obvious desire that he has when it comes to signing these contracts. He wants to get as much gosh darn money as humanly possible, and that, in a way, is seen as a pretty bad thing. Oh yeah, he wants to maximize his earning potential. How bad of him to do that. Of course, in normal situations, people would say, hey, go for what you're worth. If you're worth this, you should get that. Go out there and try to fight for your rights. But it's different when you're talking about pro sports, because there's a salary cap, and you making more money means other guys making less money, which could mean other guys refusing to sign with your team. And in a way, it would hurt the product on the ice if you don't have as many good players at your disposal. But either way, if a free agent is looking at Mitch Marner and saying, oh wow, that guy's getting heavily scrutinized, it's because of the contract. It's because he does not live up to the expectations. If you're a free agent and you sign for a 1-year, $1 million deal, if you're dog water, nobody's really going to care. Like, people are going to scrutinize you, sure, on social media, but it's not going to be as bad as Mitch Marner. It's tough to be as bad as Mitch Marner. And as we had said, Marner makes it worse for himself. The media interviews, how Maple Leafs players are looked at like gods, how the lack of accountability has always been there, and how his lackadaisical attitude gets pushed out there into the media with his comments. The guy doesn't do himself any favors when it comes to building up his own reputation in the public eye. The games played on the ice? Yeah, no, that's just icing on the cake when he goes out there and throws the puck over the glass in a sudden death game situation. It's Marner's fault when he doesn't go out there and produce points, because he's getting paid to produce freaking points. Not everybody's going to get scrutinized like Marner, and not everybody's going to be speculated as being moved like Marner either. And furthermore, if you wanted to say that the situation is so unattractive for free agents, then just go out there and play better. Like, obviously, the best criticism, the fix for Mitch Marner, if Marner didn't want any of this to go down the way that it's going down, where everybody's criticizing him, where everybody's talking about him getting traded, where people are crying out saying that they're disappointed when the news comes out that he's actually probably going to sign an extension, if you want to fix that, just be better. That's it. Like, oh, wow, crazy critique, right? Crazy analysis. Oh, just be better. Oh, my mind is blown. Yeah, that's really all it boils down to. If Mitch Marner was a point-per-game player in the 2024 Stanley Cup Playoffs, then nobody would be having this conversation. If he had showed up and he actually looked good, and he didn't just have that one crazy goal that he had scored, OHL style, then okay. There's a lot more to build off of there. And I get it, you could say, oh, but he was good in the playoffs last year. Yeah, he had a good point production rate, but all those points came in the first round. The fact that Marner disappeared in the second round against Florida in that 2023 Stanley Cup Playoff series just has the same effect. It takes all the good that he had done in round 1 against Tampa in 2023 and throws it out the window. So, for Marner, the ultimate fix here is literally to just be better. And if a free agent is going out there and looking at Marner's situation and saying, oh, I don't want that to happen to me, well, firstly, unless you're making $10.9 million a year, it's not going to. And secondly, where's the confidence in yourself to be able to say, hey, even if that does happen to me, I'll just play better and get rid of it? Mitch Marner could have benefited from that kind of thinking, but of course the guy has been at the forefront of these conversations for years, so it's not like he hasn't had that thought cross his mind. It's just kind of crazy how he's still underperforming in the ways that he does, but either way, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Elliotte Friedman saying that the Mitch Marner situation in Toronto has indeed turned off some free agents and scared them away from considering the Maple Leafs as a potential destination in free agency. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.